welcome David Millar to the table, Managing Director of Heap Partners, one of Liverpool City Region's oldest manufacturing businesses. David, thank you for joining us.
That's a pleasure.
Heap Partners, long-running company, incredibly innovative. You're a business that's gone on an interesting journey. You've been with the firm for a long time. Tell us a little bit about the company and your journey through leadership in Heaps.
Yes, certainly. So our founder was a bridge builder to Thomas Brassey, who was the biggest bridge builder in the world. I think today's 1/20th of the world's railways were built by him. So William Heap travelled around the world building bridges, and then in 1866 the railway bubble burst, and he set up in Liverpool as an engineering supply company. Today we're essentially still that, but we're much more focused. We supply and manufacture valves for pharmaceutical, nuclear, and oil and gas markets, subsea and topside, and we've pretty much stayed to the original idea that William Heap set up, which is employing knowledgeable people. So we try to have people that really understand the product and the customer's applications so that they can help them, because increasingly large chemical plants and pharmaceutical plants, they're demanning, which means they're losing knowledge, so they need to rely on their suppliers more and more. And then since 2012, we've been increasing the amount of manufacturing in the UK that we do. Some of the products we now sell, we used to offshore. They're now re-onshored, and we manufacture them in Birkenhead. And I think it's one of the best decisions we could have made.
Fantastic, particularly the way the world's been going.
Absolutely, yes. We've landed orders because of Brexit. We've landed orders because of wars in Ukraine. We've landed orders for various reasons where people are concerned about, COVID being a good one, concerned about supply chain. So bringing it home, manufacturing it in a bit more in an intelligent way, so not mass producing. We're not a mass producer. We do, we manufacture to order first of all. We stock components and then we assemble to order. But we try and machine in small batches, and then if we need to change a design or alter things or add a feature that a customer wants, we can do it very quickly. So we're very reactive. We had an American company in 2 weeks ago, and they said, we love this particular product, but we'd like to just change it. And the next morning we handed them a 3D printed change that we'd done and said, is that what you want? And they said, yep. And we went into production the following day. So we can move very quickly.
Fantastic. And you guys kind of epitomise sort of the aspiration for using UK source suppliers. I know you're very proud of whenever you can source British made, you do sub-components.
Yeah, we have one foundry that isn't in Britain that we use, which is in Spain, and we don't go any further afield than that.
And that lends to the quality, that lends to the kind of the responsiveness and the ability to improvise.
Really. We know we can have made in China or India products far cheaper than we can manufacture, but we'll have a boatload of problems. No pun intended.
So your background, you're a mechanical engineer?
No, I'm not. Discipline? No, I'm the thick member of the company. So my background is business. So I have to employ very clever engineers to do all the stuff that these good ideas I come up with. But I'm convinced that my lack of knowledge helps, because I can't see the insurmountable problems that we're facing. And I just go, well, that'll be easy. Let's do that. They scratch their heads. And if I tell them it's difficult, then they really go for it. And we come up with some solutions.
That's a recurring theme we get talking to people, is this humility of being able to defer to experts and being able to bring teams of experts together.
I don't have any choice.
So the team today, how big is the company today?
We're 42 members of staff. We have a management team of 6. So it used to be sort of the managing director made all the decisions, and that was that. But I had to change all that because I wasn't an engineer. So we are on a more of a, I don't want to say corporate structure, but it is a bit more formal than it was historically.
And that's a process of kind of change and modernisation, transformation that you've consciously undertaken. What instigated that? What made you think we need to?
Well, I had been working in the business since 1989, and then I bought the business out in a management buyout in 2008. And because we were losing money, we'd lost focus, we couldn't agree on direction and things, and it needed some decisions to be made. And at that point, I realised that we needed to sort of bring on our people and have people take responsibilities for their departments, and so we started down that road. And frankly, it's taken a lot longer than I thought it would. People just, the first management meetings, they'll just sort of sat there and looked around and looked a bit shifty and weren't quite sure why they were being asked their opinion. Now I can't get them to shut up. So
careful what you wish for.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. That must have been a bold move, a management buyout,
It was kind of handed to me on a plate because the previous owners were going to sell. They agreed a price with a company, and I had to spend almost a year helping them with the due diligence and all that sort of thing. And at the end of it, we literally walked into the solicitor's office with all the paperwork laid out on the table. A phone call goes, and they'd pulled out. They'd lost a big contract in somewhere in the Eastern Bloc, and they couldn't afford to buy us. So it had all, after a year of doing this and treading water, it all sort of collapsed. So it was an opportunity to step in and say, well, okay, I'll do the deal. So that's what we did.
That's a bold thing to do. And had you been involved in kind of buyouts or acquisitions before? That was this your first time going through the due diligence and the data room?
Yeah, first time.
So how did that come about as being part of that project team?
Well, I was the managing director at that point, so I had to head it up, and we didn't want any of the staff knowing about it.
Right.
So I pretty much had to do it all myself. Unfortunately, it meant I gave the impression to the staff that I'd lost interest in the company because I just seemed to be locked away the whole time, and they had no idea what I was doing.
That's interesting. It's kind of
it's quite dangerous.
Yeah,
quite dangerous.
Is the boss leaving, or what's going on?
Probably celebrated at that, but.
But still, it's a brave thing to do to kind of personally make the commitment of buying the business out and
didn't feel terribly brave. It seemed just like the absolute sensible thing to do.
It was responsibility. The sense of duty was there to the company anyway.
Yeah, I could see that it was having problems. It was struggling. It lost a lot of money, and as I said, the board couldn't agree on direction, and that's very dangerous for a business.
And from there on, kind of the change in direction, the modernisation.
Yeah, so we had to move factory. So we bought a much bigger site, which was derelict, and so luckily we did that during the recession. So great time to have builders in. About the only time we could have done it to budget and on time. And so we moved 3 factories into one, and we then had to change a couple of the other offices. So the first year or two was very much restructuring and moving around, and then we got into the manufacturing. We had a supplier of one particular product who went bust, so it was an opportunity to step in and start making that one product. Ironically, it was one of the most complicated products we've had to make. A metal-seated, high-pressure, high-temperature, trunnion-mounted ball valve is a very unforgiving product to make because it's got to pass gas testing at high pressure, and that's tricky. It's got to be able to operate at 400 degrees C. So since then, we've made lots of simpler products.
Fantastic. And the kind of the way you've brought your own leadership team together and evolved that over the years, where have the lessons from that come from? Was that just been an organic experience?
No, we were helped by the Manufacturing Institute, ran a course for a while, which I went on. And there was one particular chap there had come from a very large company, was lecturing, and he was explaining how his company used to do it. And he said, we would go off-site and have a strategy day with the management team, or I think they did a strategy week. And he said it was amazing. We'd come up with a perfect strategy. It was laid out perfectly. And then at the end of it, we'd all go back to the office and get on with our day job and forget about it for a year. And he said it was a total failure. So they came up with a thing called a strategic implementation document, which we call SID, because it's a bit of a mouthful. And what they do is we have to agree as a management team our very high-level strategic objectives. And you're only allowed maximum 8. I think we have 4 this year. And they're sort of aspirational, slightly generic sort of targets. And then from that, we have to come up with a series of very specific projects to help us deliver on those aspirational targets. So if we say we want to grow our own brand, which is phase our own brand products, what are the projects that would do that? So there's one project this year that's running to appoint distributors around the world. There's one is to develop new products. So the range is not just grow the turnover, but grow the range, make it bigger, and so on. And we've got, I think it's 12 projects this year, and each management person has at least one of the projects to look after and head up. They bring a team in, cross-department teams, And it's worked really well. The first time we did it, it was a strange experience because you start with a SWOT analysis, and it feels very odd to them that they're having to sort of criticise the company. But we did all that. We then went off-site. We only spent a day on it, the very first time we did it, it was a little bit formal, and people weren't quite sure. And then the following year, we came back and we did a review before we started to renew the SID. And one of my guys sat there and he said, "Oh my God, we've actually changed quite a lot." It's like, yeah, that's the idea. And because every month at the management meeting, they all have to report on their projects, including myself, they know they've got to make some progress. So we're all mad busy on our real job, but doing that day-to-day, getting that project on top, you need the pressure of everyone sitting in the meeting going, "You haven't done anything, look what I've done." So there's a bit of competition.
There's the peer competition.
Yep, absolutely. Okay. It works wonders.
Fantastic. So, I mean, is it that governance model? That sounds like quite a traditional, well-managed board. I kind of visualise. You've got a board pack, and there's the agenda and reports against.
I have a board of directors, and I made the decision to bring in a non-exec from outside the industry, and I was very lucky. I got a non-exec who has bought businesses, grown businesses, sold businesses, and he's done it in engineering, he's done it in automotive, he's done it abroad. So he's got a huge experience, but doesn't know a damn thing about valves. And he said, "I don't know anything about valves." And I said, "That's exactly why I want you on the board." And his job is to be, frankly, a pain in the arse, and he's very good at it. He asks the difficult questions that we're all trying to avoid.
Right.
And he's not afraid to sort of say, "Oh, I don't understand. Explain that again." So we have my FD puts together a formal pack for the board, and that's quite a rigid process that we do quarterly. But the management meetings are monthly. And then the executive directors, we meet every Monday for a 15-minute just coffee.
Okay, so you do have an easier, more relaxed
yes,
kind of informal.
Yeah, much, just a quick chat. Is there anything this week we need to do?
Right.
And now we've now just going through a process where I'm changing all the key performance indicators in the company, because I felt we'd got into a position where it was very much a bit like a P&L. We were just looking back historically and going, "Oh, we did that last month. That's nice." We weren't driving things. So we've started to put in KPIs that are reviewed weekly at the beginning of the week, saying, "This week we have got to do, how do we do that?" And the change has been transformational. It's amazing. So we're trying to get 15 KPIs that would enable, the theory is I could run the company from a desert island with no other information than these 15 KPIs. I'm hoping for the Maldives.
It's not underwater.
One that's not going to sink. So we're working on that at the moment, but so far so good. It's, touch wood, it's making important changes in the business.
Is it unusual for a manufacturer your size? I mean, it sounds so well managed is the wrong kind of way to
Definitely
put it, but processized. A lot of companies aspire to. They're always fighting fires. They're always responsive.
Yeah,
you guys, I guess even in a crisis, it seems like cool heads, and we've got a way to.
I don't know.
Do
I mean, we've just had our quarterly company update where we tell everyone exactly what's going on in the business, just in case, so everyone's on the same page. And we've just had our net promoter score back from our customers where they've ranked us. And we scored very highly. We got 58.8, which I'm very proud of. But my staff, when I was telling them, they're like, "I don't believe that. We are not that good." I know. So I said it's the swan analogy. I said, customers see this beautiful swan that's gliding along and it just looks so wonderful. But under the water, we are pedaling hard. And, I said it's because you're all making these changes in the business that's helping the customers, and we're delivering on it.
That must be very rewarding for them, though, is to get that customer feedback and to see the...
Yeah, I mean, we do get some lovely responses from customers. We had one this morning, actually, from a girl in our Chelmsford office got from EDF, and the guy at EDF ranks us as one of his 3 most favourite companies to deal with. So we're going to find the other 2 and hunt them down.
Circling back to kind of those projects you've got on this year, international distributors, your own line, they're hard yards, presumably. I mean, setting up sales network abroad, having the right caliber of people, and then for your own product line, I'm guessing there's a growth in a design process or in the design office, and a uniformity and a set of standardizations. Yeah,
it's quite difficult as a small company because we've got, I can't even count the number of projects on the go. And by a project, I mean, it's developing a product. That's one project. It's putting in a new e-commerce site. It's another project. Whatever it is, systems or product or distribution or whatever. We have got so many on the go that we were losing track of all the plates, keeping them all spinning. So we now use a piece of software called Trello to just to rank all the projects, to have a due dates on everything. Yeah. So I can quickly open that up and go, that should have happened by now. Why has that not happened? Because we were taking too long on particularly product development. You'd fall between two stools, one department who were waiting for the other one, and they weren't talking to each other. And people need a prod now and again. So it's not easy when you're trying to sort of pull yourself up by your bootstraps as a small company. I think it's a lot harder than a big company, but maybe that's wrong because I've never worked in a big company.
But you've always said to me, a company your size, you're agile enough. If something works and it makes money or it proves a benefit, you'll implement it very, very quickly.
We can make decisions very quickly. That's our real strength. And I've got people that now work for me, used to work in large companies, and they said it's like a superpower. The small business can outmaneuver a big business easily. And we've done that. We've had problems where companies have refused to supply us something, so we've made it ourselves and we've done it quicker. And then we've had the big company go, "That's better than our product." So yeah, we can move quickly, but you need the right people.
And the stubborn supplier never gets to work again. And
nope.
Yeah, how do we what's your views on translating that to the wider UK? There's big opportunities for UK manufacturing and getting that. We've talked a lot, sort of a novel about this kind of in the general public, this sense of malaise and depression of prospects. I don't see that in manufacturing. Everybody who's left standing after COVID, global financial crisis, war in Ukraine, everything else, you are the leanest, meanest bunch of manufacturing businesses.
Yeah,
they've been hard yards, but UK manufacturing is probably in a better fighting form now than it's been
I think
in a long
it's
time.
I think it's in a phenomenal place because I see so many companies have switched their production overseas and are just beginning to bring it back and realizing the mistakes and that, okay, it's very cheap to employ people in India, but actually you're not going to get what you want when you want it, and you're going to have problems, and it's a bit of a nightmare. Most of them have said it's cost us more than we've saved. So we're very fortunate on that. I think also, we're in this country, we've had to wake up to the fact that you've got to be far more reactive, as quick as possible. So you've got to be able to chop and change very quickly, not just set up a long production line and make the same thing a gazillion times over. But I also think we've got major problems. I'm working with World Chamber of Commerce at the moment. They want to set up a manufacturing hub and get some of the manufacturers in the region sort of together. And one of the things that's occurred to me straight away is that in education, I don't think I've ever walked into a school and not had a teacher say, "Oh, manufacturing, do we make anything in this country anymore?" And we're still the 8th or 9th biggest manufacturing country in the world, which out of 194 countries is pretty good for a little island. So I think,
and with the highest energy costs in the developed world as well.
With the highest energy costs, yeah, absolutely. I mean, it is such a kick in the teeth that it's a real problem. So one of the things we're going to do is get around all the schools and try to do some education. But I mean, I was over in the States a number of years ago looking at some of the things that were going on over there. I think we were investigating shale gas, and I was talking to one of the companies, and they said, "Oh, education's very important for us, so we work with the schools and we offer a lot of placements." And I said, "Oh, we do placements. We do 3 or 4 placements a year for the students." And the bloke looked at me like I was mad and said, "Not the students, the teachers. We bring the teachers in during the holidays so that they understand about manufacturing, because they're the ones spending the time with the kids." And it was like a light bulb moment. I suddenly realised, bloody hell, yeah, if we don't tell the teachers, how are they going to tell the kids? When they go, "I don't know what to do in life, miss." Well, enter manufacturing. It's one of the highest paid sectors.
And practical, and for so many of those kids that struggle.
Absolutely, yeah.
You
can do
make stuff.
We've got every requirement in a manufacturing business. Obviously we have the machinists and we have the assemblers and we have people that are, but we also have the accountants. We've got the designers. We've got people into logistics and so on. So yeah, everything goes on in a manufacturing business. It makes for an interesting job.
How do you get that schools outreach beyond kind of just you guys working on your own? How do we get that message out sooner? That practical skills, everything we look at. I think there's a World Economic Forum kind of prediction of the skills that are needed over the next 30 years. And it was moving all more to creative thinking, to practical skills, all what we call the old crafts and away from clerical office type things. You know, how as a sector does manufacturing get into schools and get?
Well, I mean, the schools are always very keen to encourage people in to talk about what they do. We talk at lots of schools to sort of try and help educate them and do anything we can. But we're just one small company, so I think it's got to come from a larger scale. And the next step up for me is working with the Wirral Chamber and getting in Wirral manufacturers, so that they can all start to spread the message. But really, at some point, it's going to have to come from persuading the teachers to come and visit us.
How are you finding kind of recruitment? A lot of sectors complain about sort of the generational divide and struggling with younger workers. You ran apprenticeships for a long time, haven't you?
Yes, we have 3 apprentices at the moment, and that's always worked well for us. We get a percentage dropout that can't get up in the morning and that sort of thing, but that's not so bad. But we really struggle with machinists. I mean, at the moment, I think in the northwest, or certainly the Liverpool City region, there is a shortage. I think there's 28 companies looking for machinists at the moment. So if they all need at least one, so there's a demand there, and really competent design engineers. I can get design engineers dime a dozen, but ones that actually know what they're doing and can design.
Is this the difference between graduate design engineers and people who've gone the full gambit?
No, I think. Last time we took a design engineer on, he was a graduate, and it took us 6 months to find him. We had a lot through, but they weren't very good. Now, conversely, if I need a shelf stacker for the warehouse, which we don't really employ, but if I do, the last time we advertised for one, I think we had 600 people apply. And for a little company, you can't cope with 600 CVs. It's a nightmare. So there's too many people with no skills, and we need the skilled people. We can train a lot of our people up, but not a design engineer. And we are training up machinists, but it's a long, slow process. So we have an apprentice machinist who's gradually coming through, but he has a fascination with trains, and we're very worried we're going to lose him to
Hornby,
the rail industry, or Hornby, yes, possibly.
Fantastic. And for you guys as a business, kind of the innovation piece, you've done very well over the last 10, 20 years. That's led to exports, that has led to new markets for you. What would be your advice to other businesses that say, look, we don't know how to export, we don't know how to grow those sales internationally?
It's not easy, and we've had more success, obviously, where we pushed at the open doors. So where we have a product which is better than the existing product, but the existing product is selling well, then we find that sort of taking something like that into a marketplace is much easier than if we develop a completely new, revolutionary product. We've never really broken in with that. We've always struggled. And then it's about picking the right markets. So at the moment, we're having success in Europe, in America, and the Far East. But if you then focus in on specifics, we cannot make traction in France. We really struggle. And that's a real battle at the moment. We're working with the Chamber, we're working with the embassies, we're working with local contacts. So we're trying all sorts of things to get in, and we won't give up. But it's not an easy market to get into. So pick and choose your markets, I think, would be one of the things I'd say. And for us, because we're small and we can't afford to open an office in a country, well, frankly, the headaches would be a nightmare. So we have to look for distribution. And then you have to be very careful about your legislation. So do not in any way, shape or form appoint an agent in Germany, because that could cost you dearly. Whereas a distributor is a completely different fish, and you need to look into the legality of the whole thing.
So agent versus distributor, this is local law, this is...
Agents work on commission.
Right.
And there's a very specific set of rules in Germany where they get huge amounts of protection. Okay. Once you enter the market and appoint an agent, it's very difficult for you to get away from that agent without paying out a lot of money. So you have to be very careful. But it's when you get it and you're happy, and we've got some. So we've just recently had 2 American companies over, a Danish company, and it's been great because they've come over. They've said, "Oh, we really like this, we like that, but could you change this? Could you change that?" And we can deliver those changes very quickly. So it's quite rewarding to do that.
Even that sort of sales process, that's good advice for somebody else. So to get a customer to travel to your manufacturing site, there's a lot of steps before that happens, presumably.
Yes.
You've got to go to the customer, you'll look after them to get somebody so enthused that.
Well, we started on that one with the Americans at a European convention, and we actually we'd kind of heard about one of the companies, so we sort of thought they would be a good fit, and arranged to meet up with them because we knew they were at the exhibition in Germany. So we went over there, met up, took them out for a meal, had a casual sort of thing, and then I thought we were then going to have to go over to them in America, but we didn't. They were so enthusiastic. They said, "Well, actually, we're passing through. Can we just stop off again?" So like, yeah, do. So it's that was a relatively easy one, relatively.
Fantastic. And we talked about the team you've built around you. Where do you find good people from? Are they all home? Are they all you grow your own, or you kind of poached folk, or you know people from the
mostly,
community?
if I think around the offices and the shop floor, mostly we grow our own. We poach a few where we need to, specific skills that we struggle to get. So yeah, we've had a mixture. So recently I got Albin, our new planning manager. We didn't have a decent planner, and frankly, I think we weren't quite sure how we were going to do the job, so we poached a good planner, and he's transforming the way that we're delivering on our manufacturing side of things, making it a bit more professional. So so it's a mixture, definitely.
He to me always feels like a company with a strong kind of culture of its own.
It's peculiar.
It is. That always seems to come from the top down as a standard you set and the behaviours you exhibit.
Yeah.
Was that a conscious effort, or has that always been there within the business? That
I think it's always been there. I don't think that's to do with me. I think that's just the way the business is. We're I don't think I can ever visit a manufacturing company without learning something. So you learn from other companies, but no, we've always had quite a sort of professional staff who are keen, and I suppose when we bring new people in, that rubs off on them and sort of brings them in line with it.
So is there an induction process, or it's just by osmosis, the kind of the culture and the values?
There's a formal induction program that's absolutely standard. So it doesn't matter if you're coming in as a director or if you're coming in on the shop floor as an apprentice. You go through the same program, and it's a 2-week program. You go through each department, just hearing about what each department does. You spend a period of time on the shop floor assembling valves. Even my FD had to do that. It's not really that we think that is going to teach the person about how to make a valve. We think it teaches them who the different people are and roughly what they do. So within the first couple of weeks, they've already got an indication of who most people are. They might not remember all the names, but they'll know that, and they'll know that it's a reasonably relaxed atmosphere, but everyone is very serious, because what we do, if we get something wrong, then people can die. So it's a very serious. Our products go into very dangerous applications or very important applications. The COVID vaccine with AstraZeneca, we supplied all the diaphragm valves for the manufacturing. If we screwed that up, then you could screw up the vaccine, and then you're in real trouble. Or a nuclear plant.
Yeah,
doesn't bear thinking about.
Not all companies have that sense of kind of foresight and responsibility to their products.
Not all companies produce products that can be dangerous if they're wrong.
How did you kind of venture into the commercial side and leadership, sort of from a young boy? How did what was the inspiration for going into this career, and what were the alternatives on offer?
Well, I did a business studies degree, and it was a 2 industrial placements. So I got one locally, which was at Heap Partners, and the other one was at Avon Tyres down in Melksham. And that was I loved that job, because we were in a department called Operations Audit, and the idea was that we were trying to improve the information in the company. And I'm talking back in the 80s, so we had a PC in the department, 2 PCs that we had to share, but we were very advanced.
5.5-inch floppy disks.
Yeah, exactly. We had PCs, but we were trying to set up a system. In fact, we got it set up, which pulled information off the shop floor, brought it all together, and automatically produced a report for the management team. So it was very early sort of production runs and that sort of thing. And a lot of the information had to be gathered manually. It wasn't, you couldn't have machines reporting back then, but it was getting as close to automated as we could manage it. And I've just found that fascinating. So then when I graduated, it was a different time. Then I was offered several jobs, which I was extremely lucky to do. And I thought, actually, I can go back to Heap Partners and bring what I've learned from Avon Tyres and start to change the information. So today we have our iPads and we have Power BI showing us all sorts of information, and we're trying to improve that. As I said, we're trying to get more out of our KPIs to drive the business. But I can drill down to phenomenal levels of information, and I'm sad. I find that interesting.
So you are a systems guy. You're a processes and
possibly, yeah. I never really thought about it.
Interesting.
That sounds a bit geeky. No, I'm not. I'm cool. Dangerous and edgy valves.
And you've done a lot of work with the British Valve Association.
Yes. So it's our national body. I was chairman for a 3-year period, and in fact, my sales director is about to become chairman again. So we work very closely with them, and we keep people on the different boards that they have, looking at different standards and that sort of thing, because whilst we're a small company, we're one of a dying number of valve manufacturers in the UK. Most of the valve manufacturers start in the UK. They invent a particular type of valve, like the ball valve or the diaphragm valve or whatever, and then they get bought by American companies and shipped overseas. So the companies are still going, they're just not here.
Yeah.
So the number that are actually manufacturing in the UK is declining. So I'm very keen that we keep our voice heard, and the international standards and the European and American standards. We have an input to that, and you can only do that through your body, your national body, which for us is the BVAA.
So for so many people, the kind of trade body is a necessary add-on rather than a respected body. But for you guys, the BVAA is very much a useful body and a quality body that represents the industry.
I think we're very lucky that our trade body understands that they need to be a sort of smorgasbord, and because they're not going to appeal to all of their members for everything they do, and members will just pick and choose the bits they want, and so they have to order a wide spectrum. When I joined, it was very limited and very poor, and we were very fortunate. We got a really good director in Rob Bartlett, and he got it. He understood, and we turned the organisation around, and it's now in a financially very stable position. It owns its own building, we have a huge broad spectrum of things that we offer our members, whether it's Future Leaders program, training up the young people to be the leaders in the industry in the future, which is a great program. We have all the work with the industry bodies. We have the social side with we have various dinners and spring conferences where we bring in interesting speakers. And I haven't yet been to one which hasn't been fascinating. It's always around golf though, which I don't golf, so that's the only downside.
What do you think we need to be doing? The young leaders bit is kind of particularly of interest to me, but how do we grow the manufacturing industry of the future? Because manufacturing is changing. We've got geopolitical stuff going on. There's technological innovations that are making opportunities for new, smaller manufacturers that are more agile than the primes. If you put a kind of a startup hat on, how if you had your time again, or if you were working with a group of young engineers who think they could make a run at a business, how do we grow from the seeds of an idea a new crop of manufacturing businesses, do you think?
I do think financing is a key part of it. That if you're in Germany, they're very supportive of growing businesses, and in America they'll definitely,
Does that differ? Is it the VC world? Americans just say throw cash.
Yeah, the Americans will throw cash at it, and they're not afraid to fail. They'll make a decision and fail quickly. Is their mantra, which is I think very good to a point. In this country, we're so risk adverse, and the banks are all terrified of lending money. I know it's an old joke, but it's absolutely true. They will only lend you money when you don't need it. And when you need it, you need good relationships with your bank manager. So that sort of support, and I think in the Northwest, the Liverpool City region, we're very lucky. I think there's a lot of support for manufacturing and a lot of potential, but you have to seek it out, and you have to find. There's so many quangos around that have got different programs running. Keeping track of them from an SME's point of view is quite tricky. So you've got to get out there and have a look at what's available. So that side of it is important. Obviously, believing in what they're doing and trying to keep as much as possible in-house so they've got control over it, really, would be my other advice.
The German kind of funding model, does that differ to the US one? Do you get a
think
different
it
package?
does, yeah.
The
They
Mittelstand
seem
kind
to
of
be able
model?
to. They seem to be able to develop small to medium-sized businesses. They will continue funding them and growing them into much larger. And we don't seem to do that. We seem to sort of grow to a point and then sell out.
Yep.
Whereas they don't sell out; they carry on growing, and that's quite a different thing, which is tricky because, if somebody's offering you a large thing of cash and you've been working incredibly hard, why wouldn't you take that? But I do think it delivers a different sort of thing. I don't know all the ins and outs of it, and I'm sure there are downsides to that model, but it seems to deliver.
I think we need a kind of more entrepreneurial US style culture and less risk aversion.
Yeah, I do think that's the case.
And they're talking about taking or making allowance of taking money out of the pension funds to invest in UK businesses. Is it purely capital, or is it the stuff that's wrapped around it?
It's not purely capital, and I have to say, taking things out of pension funds scares me because first and foremost, they should be thinking about the pension fund, and there's other pots of money other than the pension funds. That just looks like spending other people's money rather than the government putting their hand in their pocket. No, I think. Where you've got incubators, where you've got support, where you've got things like novel, I think things like this are incredibly helpful. And I mean, we're very fortunate on the Wirral. There's several little buildings that have been converted into almost incubators, where there's one of them has actually got sheds, and you rent a shed, and outside the shed is a desk, and you've got a desk in the shed. So if you want a private meeting, you go in there. If you want to work in an open space, and there's a coffee area, and it's lots of little startups, and they can go in there at minimal cost and get going. So it's sort of a step up from the kitchen table, but not much of one. But then they can all talk amongst themselves, and that helps, because I think one of the biggest problems is when people feel lonely. And if they're running their business and they've got no one to support them, then that's, I think, really difficult. And you just sometimes just talking it through with people, mentoring people, that's good. Other businesses can mentor each other, and I think that you can learn from other people's mistakes, because we all make plenty of them.
So that's interesting. So you see that what I traditionally call as a tech kind of model of incubators and startups, you see that having value in application to manufacturing?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So we need a different sort of space for manufacturing. You need more machine space, I guess. And
or you
industrial space.
I mean, it depends on what you're doing and how you're doing it. But you can start around here. I would start, and I wouldn't invest in the machines. I would subcontract and then pull everything together and assemble to start with. Having a machine sitting there, if you make a big investment and then you're not selling from day one, it's risky.
Utilise the community that's already there and
use
sell and
what's
buy
out there. There's a lot of subcontract machinists, and some of them got phenomenal skills, and they've made the investment. So that would be a low cost way of getting going in manufacturing. And then from there, great. If you start moving and you can bring it in house, well, you just go increase your margins. So bring it in house.
And kind of growth industries, that new generation of manufacturers, is it nuclear, is it defence? What would your money be on as the enduring kind of growth industries?
Yeah, because we're in the golden age of war and the golden age of nuclear power, and I don't believe in either at the moment. I suspect the politicians will kick those down the road and not do anything on them. Because I've had several people this week say to me, "Oh well, the increase in defence spending, maybe that's something for us because we supply valves to ships." And I said, well, there's no increase in defence spending, not until after the next election. So I think I don't think they're areas that we're going to do terribly well in. They tend to come in peaks and troughs, so they'll invest in something, a new nuclear power station, then it dies away again. I think this country's very good at R&D on pharmaceuticals. We used to be very good at manufacturing the pharmaceuticals, but building new pharma plant is extremely expensive in this country. So it seems that we're heading more as an R&D centre, which I'm not knocking. That's a good thing. And if you can get your products into the prototype plant, well, you stand a better chance that when it's scaled up, that your products go with it. And okay, it might be abroad, but you've got your first export customer. So that's a possibility for us. The other one that if I was starting out, I would definitely look at has got to be food and brewing, because that can't go too far away. It has to stay pretty local. And there's a lot of smaller people in that area that, there's a lot of plants going on, and they're going through the same things as big manufacturers, automation. They're looking at, more information off the shop floor. There's all sorts of possibilities. So that's an interesting one.
It's interesting to get that take on pharmaceutical from a manufacturing guy. So in our world, or from my perspective, if you look before COVID, the big pharma companies were running out of ideas. They were buying up kind of university licenses and early stage startups and spin outs, basically because the pipelines were starting to get dry. And there's a sort of admission of failure there, that we're not agile enough or creative enough to come up with the next big thing. And I often wonder whether there's an opportunity there to pair that R&D, the small lab proof of concept stuff, with, don't sell out to one of the big pharma companies, pair it with some manufacturing capability, make your own, and then license or scale outwards, and you keep the value in the UK.
Yeah.
You keep the R&D supply chain, and you keep the production supply chain.
I think I used to be a big fan of having a very, very open market, and we can go into your market and buy your companies, and you come into our market and buy our companies. But I've seen so many UK companies get bought and then shut down, shift abroad. Particularly in my industry, it's been horrific. And then when it gets moved abroad, it disappears, and the product disappears, and they've lost it, and they go, well, we bought another company now, so we're going to do this one. So I think that would be a much healthier option for the country, because manufacturing, as I said earlier, it's one of the highest paid sectors. It's interesting, and it has a range of jobs, so it ticks all the boxes, and it helps exports. So from a government point of view, or from the Treasury, they should be doing everything they can to encourage it.
I guess it's people think of manufacturing as just the making the thing, but there's the cognitive side of design as well. I mean, you've touched on how difficult it is to find designers. You almost, it's almost a type of senility as if you let manufacturing go, where you forget how to design the stuff to manufacture, and then you're back in the dark ages of, well, we want one of these. Well, how do we design it? Well, we can't, so we can't manufacture it.
I mean, you also need to know your limitations. We had a product we were developing, a new valve actuator, very exciting. And
you say this, but it usually is, and then you show photos of the valves, and they're blinking massive, and they're keeping power stations going.
So we knew what we needed to do mechanically, but I said, and I want it to look nice. And my designer sort of went, what? I said, it's got to look good. Oh. And they sort of came up with some ideas, but they didn't have that particular skill. So we then employed a subcontract design house, gave them an envelope and said, make it look pretty. And very simply, they came up with a design. I think it looks really sexy. And it's just what I wanted. And that's something I think manufacturing has forgotten. That, if you look back at the Victorians, they always made whatever they made beautiful.
Yes.
And okay, today you'd go, oh, well, we can't afford that sort of nonsense. It doesn't have to cost you a fortune, but you need to think my product should look nice. I mean, Apple is obviously the modern day classic for making their products beautiful. And that's, I think, a lot of manufacturers have forgotten. They're very sort of functional, and it's going to do that, and that's it. Well, make it look nice as well, and see what happens.
People will pay a premium for that. There's an implied quality of it if you've gone to the extra steps.
In the pharmaceutical sector, their plant is a showroom, and they have walkways so that people can see how beautiful and clean and shiny it all is. Well, if you've got a butt ugly product sitting in the middle, it's going to spoil that look. Whereas we provide products that look really good in there and look really nice and shiny. So I think that's important.
So this is definitely kind of from your commercial background. This is not a repressed artist somewhere.
No, I've got no artistic skills, sadly. So I know that it's a subliminal bit of advertising if your product looks good. It might not change the functionality at all, but it's important.
Fantastic. What have been the mentors you've had along the way and the role models? Because you've been very successful. You built a very successful business. I'm just kind of curious. What prompts me to ask is I'm not sure if you've come across the book From Vehicles to Vaccines.
No.
Really good history of UK manufacturing. And it's exactly as you sort of just flagged. The future is pharmaceuticals and R&D. But when you read that book, so many of the characters and the personalities and the different businesses the guy talks about, the different time frames, like you still recognise those. I'm just curious for you as a young man coming into it. What were the role models both on shop floor and in management that kind of gave you best advice and helped you along?
So when I was at Avon Tyres, my manager there was he was a bit of an inspiration. He was very focused and driven and knew what he wanted, and particularly it was all about the information, and he was very interesting. There was another, it's actually a friend of my family, and he was quite an interesting character because he'd built up a steel business, but then gone into, he had cars and showrooms and all sorts of things, transport companies. Ended up with a very diverse portfolio of businesses, and obviously made an absolute fortune. And but he liked to ask sort of questions like that, and he'd say to you one day, and quite seriously, he'd go, "Do you believe in luck?" And then just leave it like this, and I go, yes, I do believe in luck. He goes, good, because you're damn right, it does matter. And I do believe today, and from talking to him, that if you want to succeed, you need luck, you need hard work, and more importantly, a willingness to take risks. And not everybody has that last one, the willingness to take risks. And I think people that do very well tend to take bigger risks. They'll also fail more, but that's. I think those are the important elements, and I picked that up from talking to people like Tom.
Was that risk taking something you've learned then, or do you think you kind of always
I'm just
the kid
so
that was a bit silly on his bike?
I can't see the risks. I'm dim, so I just plough headlong and think, well, I can see the upside. It'll be fine. There's plenty to worry about, but no. We've developed products which, in hindsight and with the knowledge I now have, I might not have done, but I'm very glad we did. But if I'd known how difficult they were going to be, then I'm sure my engineers knew.
What's the drive for you then? What kind of drives you and motivates you?
I love manufacturing. I genuinely love taking something and turning it into something else. It just fascinates me. And that could be a farm growing crops, to a steel mill, to us turning bits of metal and plastic and making it into other things. I love the automation side of things. I love robotics. So I get a thrill from just walking around the shop floor and watching our apprentices taking lumps of metal and then the finished product going out the door a few days later. It's fascinating. And then you get to travel to interesting customers. You go to interesting countries. I've been to Kazakhstan, Saudi, Oman, Bahrain, all around the Middle East there. I haven't yet been to Iran or Iraq, but they're high up on my list of potentials.
Right now, not necessarily the...
I didn't say it was going to be safe.
Got the risk-taking thing again. Fantastic. And the industries you guys have moved into or operate in, has that been kind of a sideways move? You've seen a technology from one industry and said, okay, it will apply somewhere else, or has it been cross-referral? How does a business like yours move into new kind of growing sectors?
Well, keep your eyes open. A few years ago, there was a big rush of waste-to-energy plants in this country. They were building them all over the place. And it turned out we had the right product for that. And that was a market that came from nowhere, got incredibly busy, and then it stopped now because it's had all its funding removed. So there's very little being done on that.
So it was an artificial market through public subsidy or investment.
Exactly. Yeah. So, but we did very well out of that. We most of them have our valves in. That was great. And you just track trends and track what's going on, and if things start appearing in the press, and maybe the government is going to invest in nuclear, or it is going to invest in nuclear, would be great for us. That would be wonderful. We've been heavily in that industry since it started in the 50s, and we've supplied pretty much every nuclear plant in the UK with product. So that would be lovely.
Fantastic. You seem you're not sort of hyperbolic or about the renaissance of UK manufacturing. You seem very sort of serious or very, very grounded in future ambition or future potential of the industry.
Yeah, it's not easy. The NI raise last year was a big kick.
Everyone we speak to, that I don't think in the public consciousness it resonates with how big a deal that was to people in business.
Well, to be frank, we worked out exactly what it was going to cost us, and we cut double that cost from our business. So we employ less people now because of it directly. And we did it because we know that in the next budget they're going to have to come back again, because I know from every company I've spoken to, we've all reduced our costs. So the Treasury will be getting less money in, not more. And so they'll have to come back for more.
And they'll see that lagging indicator in the data and make another error.
Yeah.
How do we as a country engage with that political debate these days and try and help some of the policymakers make better decisions, particularly around something so complicated? I know you write fantastic opinion pieces or letters, should I say,
try,
but they're sharp and succinct and always very insightful.
It's water off a duck's back. I don't think they notice. Through industry bodies, so we get involved, and we've been down to Parliament a few times, and we do try and talk to these people, and everybody in every company should be out there just pushing it at a local level and a national level, whatever they can do. But I'm not sure our political system is really geared up to listening to long-term decisions. It's far more 4 years or less, and that's about it. And they're not really. Everything gets kicked down. Yes, we're going to invest in this after the next election. Why not invest now? Why not move quicker?
What could the government be doing better then for manufacturing and better for entrepreneurship and people who have built successful businesses to encourage you to take more risks to build more successful businesses?
There's been some good things coming out. The R&D tax credits. So if you're spending on R&D, you get tax credits back. But it's been very successful, and then because it's been successful, it's been abused. So you've had hairdressers doing R&D claims and nonsense like that. So now they're clamping right down on it, and it's increasingly difficult to get that. But they're not replacing it with anything. They're just saying, okay, well, that's somebody abused it, so you're all going to suffer. So there are definitely ways that government can encourage, but if they try to pick an industry or try to do anything like that, it'll be a disaster, because they always pick the wrong ones. So much better that they do something like the R&D tax credits, where they say, well, actually, we're keen that you invest in artificial intelligence, huge growth area, transform businesses. For us, it's one of the most transformational things that's come along.
With you guys, it's not just sort of the AI on the back end. You've invested in robotics and automation, but you made the commitment not to lose any jobs off the back of that.
Yeah, guaranteed the staff. No one will lose a job because of that.
Talk us through a little bit about that.
Well, classic example, and this is the speed at which things are moving at the moment. So we have a problem, as all exporters of our sorts of products have, getting export licenses. So you have to go through quite a rigmarole of checking the latest legislation on which countries you can export to, which materials, which companies are embargoed at the moment because they're naughty people, or they're owned by naughty people. There's all sorts of things, and you have to go through a whole rigmarole before you can ship that damn product out, and you have to provide a lot of information to get to that. And frankly, it's a dull job. Nobody wants to do it. It's boring. It's not adding any value for anybody. It's just something we have to go through. Understand why. We don't want to ship product that could be used for making weapons of mass destruction. That would be bad. And our products, frankly, could. So, a glass line valve, you could be making all sorts of nasties with it. But you can also make good stuff. So it's very difficult. So we've had somebody doing that work for us, and she now wants to offload it onto somebody else because she's overloaded in other areas. And we're sort of scratching our head as to who's going to take it on. And everyone's going, too busy. And literally yesterday afternoon in our informal directors meeting, my FD said, could we get AI to do that? So I walked through to my quality manager, who's further on AI than the rest of us at the moment. We're all going through a course at the moment. And I said, do you think we could do this? Because you're mapping the process at the moment. Could you? So he said, I don't know. I'm not sure. This morning, he sent me a link. He said, try that. I clicked on the link, and I've now got an agent that is my expert, and I just type in all the information. It prompts me. It says, I need this, that. Put it all in, and it comes back and goes, yeah, you need to apply for an export license for that product. So click on this link, and there's your form to fill in.
Fantastic.
And it's
this
just
is developed in-house.
This is training.
Tools.
We use Copilot.
Yeah.
We use ChatGPT and Copilot. This guy's using Copilot, and he has been on a course on how to use it, and he's just using standard Copilot and providing it with access to all the information, the government websites and everything. And we're testing it now. Obviously, we're not just going to go live with it, but we're testing it. It's fantastic, and it makes life so much easier. So suddenly, we don't need somebody doing that. It frees the person up that was doing it to do more profitable work. And everyone else can just spend a few minutes with the thing, and they don't have to go into anything. They just provide the information they've got. Lovely. So
also
that's
something you could sell to other people in itself is
not selling away our advantages, maybe. No, I can't do that because then my quality manager will realise he's very good, and that would be awful because I might lose him. So yeah, no, automation is important. So yeah, if we've got to have a machine tending robot now, we have a robot that does some of the assembly with working with a person. So these are cobots, not robots. So anything we can do to automate, then we'll look at it definitely. And we'd like to have. We've now got a chap, a undergraduate, working in all these holidays for us, developing systems to handle the influx of inquiries. So we get a lot of inquiries every day, and it needs somebody with quite a lot of knowledge to say, okay, that inquiry is for that product to this country. That person can quote that, but they're a bit overloaded at the moment. I'll give it to that person. Yep. So we're developing an AI bot that will do that. So it's taking a dull, repetitive task and applying logic to it and getting it sorted. And that's going really well. So that looks like it's going to. So the next thing is, all right, let's replace all the really dull, simple quotes with an AI bot. Agent that can do those, freeing the human up to do the complex, difficult stuff that needs a bit of thought and is more interesting, rather than the straightforward, another one of these, another one of these. So it should, if handled properly, help us grow the business and, as a minimum, not lose any staff, but as probably more likely will increase the number of staff.
So you spent 10 minutes there talking about data science, software development, none of that, robotics, none of that is what the stereotypical manufacturer would be perceived as doing if you're a school kid.
No, absolutely. But that's why it's interesting. Yeah. That's why manufacturing is great, because it's everything.
Fantastic. That kind of focus on innovation, that comes from you, or that's a team effort within, that comes from your systems kind of background and thinking, or not everyone
I have
is
more than my
technology.
fair share of say in it, definitely. But no, people will come in and say, "Ooh, there's this. Do you think we could do that?" And we'll have a look at it. So it's a mixture. But a lot of my ideas get shot down in flames. So
that's constructive. Yeah.
Is it?
I want to be right all the time.
I like to be right.
Fantastic. Going forward, then, kind of the ambitions for you guys, Heap Partners. What does the next kind of 3 years look like?
Well, if our forecasts are anything near accurate, it looks pretty good, pretty exciting. Far more exports. We want to get up to. We're at about 20% of our turnover is exports. We want it to be 50%. We'll be a far more secure business.
That's a rich mix for most UK manufacturers. So that's, you're not relying on home market.
We want to get to that, because I think then, if there's a recession here or the UK market disappears altogether, then we will survive as a business. So it's something that we have to do. I think if we sit still, we'll be dead in the water. And I think when I was at university, I think I was told the average life expectancy of a UK business is 6 years. And we're, 158 years old. So every year is a new year for us, and we have to think, survive.
That must be a big pressure. That's a big legacy to live up to. Is a company.
That's not the pressure. The pressure is just having all the staff and all the
people's
livelihoods and their families relying on it and everything else. That's the pressure.
So the government frequently focuses on scale ups, and they want everybody to quadruple turnover in 6 months. But that's often not on a fair assessment for manufacturing. So you guys are very steady, very stable growth trajectory.
It's not.
Much
we're
more
not
mature.
Sexy. We're not. I was looking at Sir Jonathan Ives, because he set up his design consultancy 6 months ago, I think.
Yeah,
and he's
4 billion valuation for
just
no
sold out for
and
4 billion. So it's like, wow, that would be nice. I'd sell out for the 4 billion. But no, it is. I'm afraid it's. We're not ever going to be a unicorn or anything sexy like that, and that's kind of the problem. Manufacturing, it grows and it has huge potential, but not the sort of sexy headline grabbing valuations that are through the roof. But they're all just smoke and mirrors anyway. They're not real. I mean, there's no way his design company's worth 6 billion or 4 billion or whatever he got for it. I mean, the man's a genius. Don't get me wrong. Was it Sunderland?
You like your Apple products, don't you?
I do like my Apple products. Was it Sunderland Poly you went to, I think? Something.
Jim
like
will know. I'll look off camera and Jim can.
Newcastle, right? Newcastle Uni. So yeah,
but that's a institute that's renowned for design. I think they've turned out some really good designers. And again, it goes back to British design, which those people were probably trained by bods who'd served time in manufacturing and product design, and we've lost that collective knowledge.
That's a real risk.
So Heap and Partners, as kind of, you've been committed to sustainability long before it was sexy, long before it was in vogue.
Well, we started in about 2010 or 2012, somewhere around there, and it was born out of guilt. So I mean, basically, I was very fortunate. I got to go on a holiday to a desert island because that particular desert island will disappear with global warming. We were just coming out of the recession. Yeah, it was 2010, 2011, just coming out of the recession. And my staff were more interested in keeping their jobs and surviving and, you know, the day-to-day grind. They did not care about the environment and anything to do with that. It was just, let's survive. So we designed a program, or I designed it when I was on holiday, called 3 Ps, People, Planet and Profit. And it was just an internal program to explain to our staff that every time we lowered our carbon footprint, we were saving money, which increased our profitability straight on the bottom line. If we replaced 1,200 light bulbs with LED lights, which back in 2010 was new tech, and nowadays every light bulb's an LED light. But back then, it made a huge saving. It's like a 30% reduction in our electricity bill. Well, that's straight on the bottom line without any detriment.
Just from lighting.
Just from lighting, because we had in our head office we had 1,200 light bulbs on all the time, and it was an enormous change for us. So it was really about showing them that we weren't going to damage the business. We weren't crazy tree huggers. We weren't doing it because we love polar bears, although we do. We were doing it for serious business reasons, and that was to make more money. And that's what it's all about. And so we employed a consultant for a 6-month period to write us a green action plan. And he came up with about 34, 35 possible projects we could do. Some of them were insane. Back in 2010, it was, give every member of staff an electric car and cost will be £1 million and you'll save this, but it'll be great reduction in your carbon footprint. So that was a no.
They'll all get to work on time.
Yes, that's true. They like the idea. So, but other things we could do. So solar panels on the roof, changing the LED lights and so on and so forth. Some things were really big, getting rid of our gas and oil boilers and replacing them with air source heat pumps for the offices. So some of them were quite big investments. Some of them are minute, a particular type of plant. I'm looking around here. Those aren't real.
They're all plastic.
Yeah. So you go into our offices, it's full of a particular plant which is very oxygenating. And 3 of these plants will replace the oxygen 1 human uses. So some of them are so small that they're never going to change the bottom line, but they make a nice working environment. So that's a plus. So we've gone through about 28 of those projects, and we've pretty much halved our carbon footprint. And then we offset the rest with tree planting. So we've now passed 18,000 trees planted, which double offsets our carbon footprint. So in our industry, we were the first carbon neutral and then the first climate positive company. I don't believe in net zero because I cannot affect some of our major corporation suppliers. Global billion-dollar turnover companies are not going to listen to a little SME in the UK saying, "What about your carbon footprint?" They don't care. Yeah. So all we can do is set our stall out and then do as much as possible to shame them into doing something for real. But we've had big companies come round and people say, "God, you actually believe in this? We just do it. We're just paying lip service to it, but you're actually doing it." So, but the other P is the people P, and I need to attract the right people. And over the last 15 years, you could rank up the number of people in interviews will raise the fact that they've noticed that we're doing this and we're doing that, and they really like that. And it matters more to the young people. I don't think they're very good at doing anything about it themselves. They're not necessarily the best advocates. Maybe Greta Thunberg is one that does a bit, but most of them actually, they throw their rubbish on the floor and they won't switch the heating down. But that aside, they do like to work for a company that isn't destroying the planet and raping and pillaging left, right and centre. So that comes into the interviews a lot. So it's attracting new talent. We also give them 6 days paid volunteering time so they can help local charities.
That's a lot for a small business. That's
Well,
6 days.
we worked it out 6 days because if everybody used it, and they don't, but if everybody did, then it would be equivalent of one full-time person helping charity, which we thought was a nice sort of round figure.
That's a very nice methodology behind.
But they don't tend to all take it up, which is a shame. But the ones, some do, some don't. And if somebody goes off to do something for a charity, well, all their co-workers have to step in and put it up. So the company doesn't suffer, and it gives something more to that individual. If they fundraise for a charity, then we'll match fund it. So that if they raise £200 for charity, we'll give them £200, so they donate £400. So we get lots of nice letters back about that sort of thing. But the idea being is that people can work at Heap and Partners and think, God, this is the best company ever. Or they can work at Heap and Partners and think, I don't give a shit about Heap and Partners, but I love my job and I'm the best at it, so that's great. Or they can come in and go, I hate the company, I hate my job, but I've got to pay my bills, so I may as well work here. And that's the group that we worry about. And this is the same person, by the way, depending on which day they get out of bed the wrong side. But they could, and they need something more, and you spend a lot of time in work. So if there's the opportunity to, help out or do something completely different to their day job, well, it's not a bad thing. Not a bad thing for them to be able to do. And some of them love it. Some of them don't care and don't use it. Or some will just go, actually, I had one guy, his son had an illness and he wanted to help for a particular charity just once and he did that. And, because his son had been ill and they helped. So,
It's the same story for so many people. You donate because something's touched your
something
life. And
affected your life in some way. So we used to have sort of a company charity, and then we quickly realised that people much preferred to be able to pick and choose their own charities. So now it's, do it for your own charity, whatever it is you want to do. We have to approve it. We've got to make sure that we're not straying into dangerous territory. But yeah,
I mean, you touched on the recruitment side. Have you seen the process of recruitment change over the years? Have you seen the way you have to attract talent?
Obviously, LinkedIn is the big change, and that's a boon and a bane of our lives. You do see the same recruitment companies are all trawling around on there looking to poach your staff and then get you somebody new to you and then poach them back again. And there's a danger of it circling around. And companies have to, I think, work a lot harder to keep hold of staff. We have, touch wood again, a reasonable retention rate. Most of our staff join us and then stay. And we also have a 60% return rate on those that do leave us. They come back. So, or try to come back. We don't have them all back. So,
You must be very proud of that.
I like that. Yes, I like
and
that.
Actually made a mistake.
Well, the problem is if you largely take people from school or from university, they've never experienced anything else, and they just assume that the grass is greener. So sometimes they have to go away and suddenly realise that actually we weren't as evil as they thought we were. So,
and a lot of your staff are local, aren't they?
Yeah.
You are a big local employer.
Yeah, we're pretty much all local. Just those that used to live further away have moved to get more local. But we're fairly international as well now. We've got one Mexican, one Indian, one Sudanese, one Pole. Who else have we got? So we're I don't know how many languages we speak now. I have to look that up. It's
when the flags come out during World Cups kind of season.
We put the flag up to the country of the visitor. So we have flagpoles at the front, and whoever's visiting.
That's a very classy touch. I've noticed that at the Heap Party, you've got the multiple flagpoles. I think.
Yes. So we always have the flag of the country. So,
and the company and the UK. Is that?
Yeah. So if there's no visitors, then we have the Union flag, the English flag, and then the company flag. But if there's somebody from America or Denmark or wherever, then up goes their flag.
That must mean so much to somebody if they're
some notice, some don't.
It's just a little courtesy that you can give to somebody.
It's a subliminal nod. Some of them notice, some of them don't.
Really?
Yeah.
This is outside by the Sunflower.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah. Fantastic. On the recruitment piece, I mean, you've talked about AI in terms of the business. Are you thinking about adopting AI as part of your recruitment process? And you've said, stealth shop pickers, you get 600 applications for, and designers, it's a bit tighter. Where do you stand on?
Well, we employ an agency, and I suspect they
Right.
use AI, but we're not going to use it at the moment to trawl through. I don't think it's a possibility. Actually, I hadn't really considered that. We're still learning everything we're looking at, and just sort of, ooh, we could do that. It's a bit like when we first started with 3D printers. Now whatever the problem is, the answer is 3D print it. So I think we're now entering the age of whatever the problem is, AI is the answer, which of course it isn't.
No,
because it's interesting when it messes up.
You get whatever fits the pattern or whatever fits the middle of the model, and some of those exceptional people, or those some slightly quirky people
Yes.
that would be a good cultural fit get left out. The sustainability piece, kind of, you guys have been leaders in sustainability. Then, what would be next? I feel like on the sustainability front, we've kind of plateaued a little bit. Everything we can do, we've sort of done.
We've got a lot more that we can do. I mean, we're still, at the moment, we're having a bit of a focus on plastic. So we're removing plastic from packaging and that sort of thing. We still have it in our products, and we can't get away from some of that. But we no longer use any plastic in our packaging. All our packing is shredded paper or shredded cardboard. We've also done things like where we're packaging up. The boxes used to be stamped up with our corporate name, but we've stopped that now. So they're just plain brown boxes, and we use a paper-based Heap Partners tape. So the customer can take that off, throw that away. It's paper, so it's fine. And then they've got a clean brown box, which they can reuse without having our name all over it. So it's that sort of thing we're looking at. We can certainly put more solar panels on the roof. We've got 88. I've got room to double that. But unfortunately, I've got to replace part of the roof, so I don't want to put it up there, take it down and replace the roof.
Are you using battery storage? Or have you
no, we consume everything that we're making at the moment. So
that's another screen on the iPad is how many watts you're generating from the panels and how much.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, when we do have a readout in our reception of how much we generate, and then when we had some more panels added, they broke it or changed it or something, and we don't get a readout now, and I haven't managed to fix that.
How big's the array at the moment?
88 panels. 88 panels, I think. Wow. I don't know what we're generating. It's about 20% of our electricity, and I know if we cover the rest of the roof and make a few other changes, we might be able to get to 40 to 50% of our electricity generated. There's room to squeeze it in. That would be nice.
That must be a big help with kind of the current cost of energy.
Yeah, and it'd be a no-brainer to do it tomorrow, except for the fact I'm busy replacing the roof and I'm doing it in spans, but I have to do it a step at a time because it's 60,000 a span, so I'm not doing that every year.
And you've been in the site that you're at
for 2008 we moved. Yeah,
that's the home for a long time.
I hope so. Yeah. Well, when we moved there, my staff said it was bigger than we needed, and then now they're sort of saying, "Well, we could move." No,
not again.
Just be more efficient.
And you're in a great location within, as
it's
a
good
business,
for recruitment, good for skills. Yeah, it's wonderful, that side of things.
You've got Camel Aird's not far. You're in a regeneration zone. Wirral Council's doing some great stuff.
Yeah.
So it's an inward investment piece, or as a growth piece for the region.
Yeah, and as I said earlier, there's a lot of support, I think, in the Liverpool City region. We're very lucky. Things like this. It's really good, and sending people in so they can just think about what's going on and how we work things is quite important. People don't always get enough time to think; they just do.
Yeah,
and don't necessarily think about what they're doing. So we're having a push at the moment to try and encourage our staff to make their lives easier. The Americans called it lean, but it's the Toyota production system, TPS. Well,
you've got an aversion to lean.
Yeah,
lean consultants on site.
Print 5 bin 3 is ours.
Right.
And that's to remind us how unbelievably appalling we can be. And this is a true story that we were training up a woman who works for me today, Sarah, and she was being trained up, and the old lady that was training her was about to retire, said, "Okay, fill in the form on the computer and print off 5 copies." So she printed off 5 copies, and she said, "Okay, what do I do with these?" She goes, "Okay, that one goes with the goods, that one goes in the file, yes. What do I do with these 3? She said, "Oh, you bin those." Why don't we just not print them off? "Oh, no, we've always done it this way." God knows why we ever needed 5 copies of something, but maybe we did in the past. And maybe in the past somebody said, oh, we don't need 5 now, we only need 2. And she said, what do I do with these? She goes, I'll bin them. So she just carried on year after year, printing off 5 and binning 3, which, for an environmentally friendly, efficient company. So ours is print 5, not lean. And we have an 8 o'clock morning meeting. Couple of minutes, 2 or 3 minutes, the whole company comes together. We talk about what's going on, if there's any visitors. We have a print 5 topic, which the person presenting talks about. We all rotate around, take turns. A safety message, and then we spend 15 minutes cleaning the factory, everybody. So this morning I was walking around the yard litter picking. I've got a little litter picker and a bin, but everybody kicks in on that, and it keeps the factory spotless. But it's about somebody thinking, I hate this element of my job. It's really painful. I have to walk all the way over there to get that. If I had that tool here, it'd be much more efficient. So they then have the ability to either order it, make the change themselves, or if they're not sure what the solution is, they can write it on an improvement card, which they've got these magnetic laminated cards, and they just chuck it on a board. And then once a week they get gathered up, and we have a mixed department team that review them and say, actually, we can do this. Let's implement that. So we make improvements, and they're little tiny steps. And the idea being that if they can make a 2-second improvement in their day, that's worth doing. So make that change. So it's interesting because we were reaching the point last week where people were sort of feeling, we haven't really done anything for a while. So when I did the company update, I said, I've not tracked everything we've done, but this is what we've been doing recently. And I just put up all the different things we've done. Bloody hundreds of them. Loads of little changes, some big, some small, but it's beginning to get traction, and it's beginning that people have started to think, oh yeah, I'll need to think about that. But it requires people to think. They've got to think about what they're doing rather than just being a robot and doing it. And the thing about the Toyota production system is they say, most companies employ from the neck down. Whereas if you're thinking about it, you employ from the neck up, and that's the bit you want, and that's the expensive bit. It's the clever bit. Yeah. So if you use everyone's brains, you'll get some sort of improvement.
Interesting. Do you think I'm kind of curious about your sort of typical week? Do you think your week is typical of an MD, or you got your own sort of?
I've no idea. I don't play golf, so maybe it's not typical.
Don't play golf. Do you do triathlons? That's the other one.
No, I don't do triathlons either. I suppose it is, yes. I mean, my day starts, it starts the 8 o'clock meeting, as it does for everybody. But then, so I suppose that's different. I suppose as many MDs clean the factory, wash the floor. I then review all the projects we've on the go, because I'm keeping all the plates spinning. And then I suppose most of my job is about encouraging everyone else to make the changes they've got to make. So whether it's a project or whatever, and keeping everything on track. So I have a lot of meetings about improvements that we're going to do, and I think my job has changed from when I first started, where we didn't have an FD, so I was producing all the management accounts, and I was doing this, that, and the other, and all that's gone, and that's being done by others. So it's freed me up to focus on trying to improve and drive change in the company. So I'm always interested in anything that makes us think about things.
So you've got the pure directing thing down to a fine art, to being able to just gently touch all the plates and keep them spinning. And
I hope I'm getting there. I don't think I'm quite there yet. I've got friends that seem to work a lot less hard than I do, so I'm aspiring to an easier life.
What kind of, do you enjoy your downtime, or is sort of the business your hobby as much?
No, I love not being at work. I'm away next week. That's going to be lovely. I get to ride on someone else's boat next week, so that'll be nice. It's the only way to have a boat, I think.
Yeah, it's not cheaper. Yeah. No, David, fantastic. Thank you for coming in and speaking to us.
Thank you very much.